Join me in painting this graceful loose watercolor figure, capturing the warmth of summer and that breezy beach vibe. I start by mixing yellow ochre with a touch of vermilion hue to get a warm skin tone, which I'm using to paint the upper back of the figure. The upper back of the figure is shaped like a tilted capital letter D, just like you see in the video. Now I add the neck and shape it so that it connects nicely to the shoulder. Next I draw the arm going down from the shoulder. It goes just a little bit below the D shape we made earlier. Then I draw the forearm. It gets thinner as it goes down. The upper arm and the forearm are almost the same length, but the forearm can look a little longer, especially when you add the hand. On the other side, I draw the top part of the arm to match the first one. The lower part of that arm is pointing forward, so we can't see most of it. By mixing vermilion hue with a touch of Prussian blue, I create a warm brown shade which I use to paint the shadow on the left arm. However, the arm is too wet right now, so the pigment spreads more than intended. So I decided to pass and add the shadow later. I'm going to paint a white hat, so I'll use a negative painting technique. That means instead of painting the hat itself, I paint around it to define its shape. First, I sketch the outline of the hat using a mix of Prussian blue with just a bit of vermilion hue. I block in the structure of the hat. Then I carefully paint around it. As I move towards the right side of the paper, I gradually add more water to my brush to lighten the color and create a smooth transition. Once the shape of the hat is defined, I move on to paint the woman's hair. I use the mix of vermilion hue with Prussian blue to get a darker tone, and I use it in thick consistency to define the hair more effectively. At this point, the paper near the neck and shoulder is still wet. So when I applied the pigment, it spread beautifully and I chose not to control it, letting the watercolor pigment do the work. Next, using a brown shade, which is a mix of vermilion hue with a bit of Prussian blue, I paint the shadow on the left side of the left arm. Next, using the skin tone, I paint the area from the thighs to the knees and from the knees down to the ankles. You can notice that for the thigh, the form tapers gradually, and while painting from the knee to the ankle, you can see the calf muscle is subtly defined through my brush strokes. Similarly, for the other leg, I follow the same process. I have assumed that the foot is pointing forward, so from this angle, it's hidden behind the ankle and doesn't need to be painted. Next, using brown shade on my palette, I paint the shadowed areas on the leg. Next, using a very light value of Prussian blue, I paint the shadow areas on her white dress, as shown in the video. If color mixing feels a bit confusing, I have added a simple guide at the end of this video that might help. I have tried to break it down especially for this painting, so let me know if it's helpful so I can do more like this in the future. Now I'm mixing Prussian blue with a bit of vermilion hue to paint the woman's shadow on the ground. At this time, the leg area is completely dry. I use a brown tone which is made by mixing vermilion hue with a bit of Prussian blue to paint the shadow cast by the dress on the thighs. Finally, I add the shadow on the left side of the hat using a bluish grey shade which is a mix of Prussian blue with a touch of vermilion hue. And that's it, we have completed the painting process. You know, I have used Prussian blue, yellow ochre and vermilion hue for this painting. Using these three base colors, here is a color mixing guide I followed for this painting. It can be a helpful reference for your own watercolor exploration. If color mixing still feels a bit confusing, I have added a short clip on Patreon where I explain it more clearly for this painting. It is also a place where you can support my art journey. Thanks so much for watching till the end. See you in another video. Until then, take care and bye-bye from Prema.